Something I do every week is coach people on Reddit. It's specifically at our Healthy Gamer GG. I love what Dr. K brought to the world, especially in the world of like streaming and advocating for mental health among gamers and young adults. So I want to help his efforts, so I go to that subreddit and I try to coach people who I think will benefit from my feedback. And so there's a common theme of what I call catastrophizing among the posts that I recently commented on. So I want to talk a little bit about that. Catastrophizing, and my definition of it is basically assuming the worst, and from a situation you're thinking all these things about how something that can go wrong and what happens as an aftermath of the thing that went wrong. So one example is I'm not doing well at school right now because of my ADHD symptoms, and now because of that I am going to lose my career, lose my parents' respect, and lose money, and so on. Another example is I don't have motivation to right now to do something, but I'm never gonna find out what I want to do, and I don't even know what to do. Like I don't have any idea of what to do. Or the more relatively recent common theme of I have never had a romantic relationship with any one of my opposite gender, and I'm heterosexual, but like oh no, because I'm something less virgin. Now I'm like doomed for life, and and there are some people who are saying that if they don't experience any like sexual actions at a certain age, they will like attempt to end their life. And I think with these examples, you can see why I call them catastrophizing. So we want to pull ourselves into a more neutral standpoint. And I want to talk about what to do when you find yourself catastrophizing. So before I even talk about tactics, I want to first congratulate you, because if you're noticing that you are catastrophizing right now, that's like half of the work done. It's really hard for us to have a very objective view of ourselves because we are the ones experiencing it. But it is possible. There are times when you notice yourself having a thought instead of just being in that thought. There are times where you are hungry, but there are also times where you notice that you are hungry. This kind of awareness around your thoughts is what helps you get to an objective place where you can view your thoughts. So catastrophizing is, oh my god, you're in catastrophe kind of a mindset. Everything is, like falling apart, and you are, in this really life or death situation for your mind. So when you notice yourself being in that state, you've done a lot of the hard work. So this leads naturally to my first point. When you think that everything in your life is going horribly and you will suffer and your life is going to shambles, you want to pull yourself back and ask yourself, what am I thinking right now? And you want to be specific as possible. The brain tends to create a lot of fear around uncertainty. It likes certainty. So the easiest thing you can do to appease your brain when it's going through turmoils is to make things specific. So get out a piece of paper or get out a cell phone and write down exactly what you are thinking. What are you thinking right now? So, and it doesn't have to be good things. I want you to write it down without judgment. So you think when when your significant other leaves you, you think that you cannot, carry life on by yourself. You don't know what to do, and you want vengeance or whatever. Failed that test, and so I am going to fail the class, and so I am going to be on probation. So like these are all hypotheticals, right? And my parents will disown me. Like whatever it is you're thinking, just look at that and just write it down, and you can be the one observing the thought now instead of being one with those thoughts. And the second part is and now once you have that thought download ready, what you want to do is really look at that and ask yourself, is that true? So going back to the example of I failed the test, is that true? Like maybe you actually did, and in that case it will be yes, it is true. A lot of the times it's based on a gut feeling after the test, right? Oh, I think I really bombed that test. And then, I'm sure some of you have experiences of like actually doing really well, or maybe you have experiences of you think you bombed it but then you did like way worse than you did. So instead of just like thinking, oh my god, I think I did, ask yourself like, is that true? Okay, so you have determined that, and then now if I fail this, I'm gonna fail the entire class. Well, the grades, the pass-fail of a class doesn't usually depend on one single test, right? So, is that true? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And then you want to repeat this practice for all your thoughts that you wrote down. And what this gives you is the opportunity for your brain to get into kind of a reality inventory check. Instead of flailing around with no specifics of like, oh my god, everything is just gonna be so bad, I can just feel it, but I don't really know why, and I don't really have any specifics on this disaster. You're really thinking like, okay, so yes, that's true, that happened, and this didn't happen yet, but I'm thinking about it. This didn't happen, but I'm thinking that it will. You gain a more objective view of reality, and this helps you accept reality for what it is. It's just like something that happens, right? And you thinking something that will happen based on that reality is a thought that you can manage. And finally, I briefly mentioned just a few seconds ago that you can manage your thoughts, right? And so while the situations of a person and the thought of a person varies individual to individual, I want to kind of cast a wide net in this video and offer you one thought that can really help in general. So say you actually failed the test, and say that this test accounts for a very big part of your grade, and that it will actually fail you the class. And now you are thinking that there are real consequences to this, so your panic and your catastrophe is justified. But now I want to offer this really generic thought. How am I going to overcome this challenge? So, your brain has to think of what it is offered, right? So, I'm sure some of you have heard this popular saying, don't think of a pink elephant. And the first thing that pops into your head is pink elephant, right? So, your brain has the power to imagine. Your brain has the power to come up with things that didn't exist in the world. So, when you're thinking that everything is a catastrophe, your brain is going to find evidences of catastrophe and continue throwing it at your face. But when you change the question to like, okay, how am I going to overcome this? How is this going to be good for me? How am I going to use this as an opportunity? How am I going to make the best scenario out of this that already happened? Your brain is going to find the answer to those questions just like you thought of pink elephant even when I told you not to. So this is a really constructive and a general way to overcome the problem of catastrophizing. So quickly recapping, number one, you want to be specific with what you are thinking when you're thinking about this catastrophe. Number two, you want to go through them one by one and you want to evaluate whether if it's true or not. And number three, you want to think, how am I going to overcome this despite the fact that this happened? So this was a quick recap of my Reddit coaching for this week, and I'll see you next week.